great to be here. Great to see you all here. Good morning to those who are watching virtually. Can we please just honor God intentionally with the precious gift that He gave us this morning with our breath? So if you would, just inhale and then exhale. Thank you, God. Lord, as we release, Father, help us to release those negative thoughts that would hold us captive. Help us to release the negative self-talk that would have us to believe that we'll never have enough. God, help us to release the generational lies and the curses that have maybe been spoken over our lives, that we will always be in debt or always be in lack. Father, we curse that. We curse every generational financial curse over our families and over our lives, God. Help us to remember what it says in James 1 and 22, Lord. Let us not merely be hearers of the word and so deceive ourselves, but to do what the word says. In other words, when we know better, let us do better. So help us to now come with open arms, open minds, open thoughts, to receive the information that will be poured into us this morning, but not only to hear it or soak it up as sponges, but let us also put the knowledge and the power to work. Lord, we declare now that our lives will be different, that we will build generational wealth, Lord, that the money will flow from our lives into our children's lives and into our children's lives. We thank you, God. We thank you, God. We now ask that you bless every person involved with this conference, especially our guest speaker, God, all those on the Financial Empowerment Conference team. Bless our pastor, our servant leader, Reverend Dr. Wade Bright, God, and his wife, Reverend Rita Bright, Lady Rita Bright. Lord, we honor you this morning. Here we are, ready to receive. We thank you, God. We ask all these things in the name of your Son, Jesus the Christ. Amen. Amen.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Let me say it one more time. Good morning. Are you excited today? It's my responsibility to welcome you all. I think you had this mask on and wipe my nose a little bit. To welcome you all to our 11th Financial Empowerment Conference series. Let's give God some praise this morning. I am excited to be here. I'm excited for what we're going to receive, what we're going to learn, how we're going to be better stewards of what God has blessed us with. As I was driving this morning coming, I thought about what the Bible says, that money, the love of money, is the root of all evil. That's what the Bible says. The love of money is the root of all evil. But the Bible also says that money answers all things. The love of money is the root, but money answers all things. How do you balance the two? You balance the two by putting knowledge and power to work. And it's called stewardship. Jesus spoke a lot about money. In his parables, in his teaching, he spoke a lot about money. And God continues to bless us. The issue is not God. The issue is always with us. How do we manage? How do we handle what God has blessed us with? So the first thing is we learn to acknowledge God, that all of our blessings come from God. Because the Bible tells us that seek you first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And then second, we ask God for the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to put to use the blessings that God has given us. And that's the purpose of this conference, That's why every year we come to learn to be better stewards. Every year we come and we reflect and say, God, thank you that last year I got out of debt. Last year I was able to put together an estate planning for my family. On Sunday, we referenced a scripture from Kings where the lady came to the prophet and she said, you know, my husband loved God. He respected God. He honored God. But he's dead, and the creditors are coming to seize my boys and sell them as slaves. Get this, he honored God, but he didn't take care of his financial business. Many of us will worship, we will praise God, we will lift up holy hands, but we'll leave in a financial bondage because we have not learned to take care of our business. I pray for me. I am on this path. That's personally, I'm on this path wherein I see myself being all that God has ordained me to be financially. That's where I see myself. That means that being out of debt, helping to pay my kids' tuition so my children don't have to leave college with a tuition burden, and trying to get out of mortgage payment one day, trying not to live like the Joneses, trying to live as God has blessed me to live. And so this morning I'm excited. I thank God for those who have organized this financial empowerment series. Brother Kevin Turner, I praise God for you. Brother Kevin, Brother Bobby from Barron, I praise God for you. Sister Chelsea McNeil, I praise God for you. Those who are volunteers, all of our facilitators, our presenters, and this awesome brother who will come this morning. I don't know, but I'm intent to anticipation that Brother Andrew Williams will bless us this morning. Anybody here came with an expectation to receive this morning? I mean, I've heard so much about him. I just can't wait. And so I'm about to get off right now because I'm excited. I want to say welcome. Thank you, those who have joined us virtually. We praise God for you. Those who are in person, we praise God for you. Let us put our knowledge and power to work. Amen, somebody? Let us put our knowledge and our power to work. God bless you. Receive it. I see you on the next side of a financial breakthrough. God bless you. Amen.
Good morning. Hard to follow that up. Fire and brimstone. Get us started this morning. For the last 10 years, we've struggled to come up with a theme that really represents or that will really resonate to get people to act. Because we always get a lot of people to show up for the conference, and that's part of the thrill is getting the opportunity to educate people, but we really get thrilled and satisfied when we know we've helped somebody. So we went through a lot of themes this year, and Kevin will tell you that we nixed a lot, right? We had somebody new join the team this year, Kevin's wife Nicole, and I know who runs the house now because she just nixed everything. Every time we come up frame, no, that ain't good. That ain't good. So it's very simple. 4 words: know better, do better. And truthfully, when we look at it, and there's a scripture that follows, and I think Denise read the scripture, but what followed that phrase of do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourself, do what it says, it also says being a forgetful hearer, and we all do it, right? You know how you hear something and it resonates and you say, yes, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna lose weight. I'm not gonna eat that cheesecake, and I'm gonna do this. And then about 10 minutes later, sometimes 2 days later, that cheesecake sitting on the table, you say, I'm just gonna take a little slice, right? Well, I was trying to give a little more time to that, right? But do not be a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work. This man shall be blessed in his deed. And that's what we really wanted to happen. So we came up with the phrase "Know better, do better." Now there was a nice logo that came with it, but nobody understood what the logo was. That's Kevin's fault. I worked on that, but I'm blaming that on Kevin. But we really want that phrase to resonate, so that's why we just kept it simple. And I love what Reverend Bright said about following up. It's within ourselves to actually go out and do what we know. It's like reading the Bible and you understand what God wants you to do, but then you still go do. It's okay to do it while you're in church from 9 to 11. It's okay to be who I am outside of that, and that's not what the expectation is. So I pray that what we learn here today, we take and put into action, and we take care of ourselves, we take care of our families. We leave that legacy, we create that legacy and leave it so that generations will benefit from this 2-hour time we have right here. Thank you.
Let's face it, looking for a job these days is rough. Scrolling through endless job boards, waiting for employers to email you back, writing long cover letters. Did someone say, boring? But what if I told you there was a better way to find a job? A quicker, easier way to find work? That's why we created Juvo Jobs, to help job seekers find their match at the touch of a button. Simply download the app and get connected to hundreds of jobs just around the corner. Forget spending hours on your resume. Record a short video intro instead, so employers can see your true personality. Turn your job search from this into this. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today to find your perfect match. Juvo Jobs, where jobs find you.
Rick, what's this? I told you I wasn't feeling this vaccine thing.
Hey, what I said? If I can do something that will help us get rid of this thing, I'm willing to do it.
Well, I'm not.
Well, then maybe we just don't need to be together anymore.
I just can't figure out where I went wrong.
What did I do? I'm just getting out of a relationship right now. I want to be safe.
I have protection.
You wonder why there's no more measles? No more smallpox? No more polio? Because we were vaccinated from it. So this here ain't nothing new.
For questions and more information about COVID-19 testing and vaccinations, please call the Family Health Centers of Georgia at 1-800-935-6721 or visit covid.fhcga.org.
It's always good to start early, but a lot of times life gets in the way, and though you can start early, things can get disrupted in your planning. What's your advice to people of any age, the younger people, the middle age, and those who are older? Is it ever too late to start planning and getting a workable plan?
It's never too late, Kelly. And I'll tell you one of the findings that I came across in this process of writing the book is that we may not recognize this, but I have two young adults, shall I say now, who are both over the age of 18. And I'm getting one under auspice and the other is working on it. But there is a need for having a living will, or also known as a healthcare directive. And if you do not have that, and it just so happens if you're incapacitated, whether that's through a car accident or an illness, the medical professionals actually could be required to go to court to ensure that the decision is made on behalf of that person is done in such a manner that it is compliant with the law. And so as a parent, even though they are dependent upon you, you may not have that wish directly. And so the point to your question, which is, it's never too early to start on this. I've had to have these conversations with now my young adults about even making their wishes for a living will, whether they want to be resuscitated or not. And so this is a very important topic. The administrative piece of this has been challenging for many. And that's one reason we also created a technical platform to make this easier for individuals, Kelly.
Good morning. Again, good to see everyone here. It's great to see so many of you in the building after 2 years. It was roughly 2 years ago this week that we had planned for our ninth empowerment conference, and of course we know what happened following that, and we've been living through it ever since. But that is some of the genesis again for the theme. All the things that we have been through as people, it's not that Before I talk about what I'm actually here to talk about, I did want to give a shout out for everyone who was involved in last night. We had a great time last night at our fun night. Congratulations to our team members who participated. We had the usher board, the choir, echelon, and then there was a group of folks who called themselves the Intimidators. And our champions, and I forgot to mention it last night, we have named the championship for Fun Night in honor of our initial chair of the conference, Reverend Phyllis Ailes. So Echelon was the first champion of Fun Night, the Phyllis P. Ailes Championship. And I know that would make her smile because of how much she loved our young people. So praise God for that. I also want to thank our host last night, Brother Chesley McNeil. I want to thank Chef Renee for the great food that we had, and everybody who participated, all of the team members. We had a great time, so again, thank you. Now, I'm here to talk about what happens after the conference, but before I get to that, I want to point your attention to our workbook. Everybody should have one, and just kind of walk you through quickly what is in there. There is a table of contents. Unfortunately, for those who have the printed copy, we left off the page numbers. So, apologize for that. Those of you who have the virtual version, and that will go into the chat very shortly. You can download a version of the workbook virtually. So, please follow along. And the agenda is on in page number 3, which is not labeled in the printed book. And the other thing I want to point your attention to at the very end is we have action plan pages. Again, the whole thing is do better, and we want you to put into action the things that you have learned. So if you look at that, what you see is an ability to kind of rate where you feel like you are today in various areas, and then put a plan in place on how you're going to address those areas throughout the course of the year. In the book also, we have on our sponsor and supporter pages, our sponsors, we'll hear more about them a little bit later, but we also have at the bottom 2 people who are going to be working with us during this year, which we're calling our legacy advisors. We are putting a strong emphasis on legacy building. And one of these gentlemen, Brother Solomon Hicks, is one of our members here at Turner. Many of you have seen him from time to time. He is a well-known insurance guru, business leader, speaker, and he will be participating in that along with a gentleman who I have not yet met, but some of our team members have, very influential, and you'll see something from him in just a moment, Brother Kenneth Kelly. So that will be part of our legacy planning series. So today is not the end, today is the beginning, it's the start point. We want you to continue to take advantage of what we have to offer throughout the course of the year. We'll be covering a wide range of topics, and for that, I would like for our video to play of this year's upcoming conference series.
You might ask, what's in it for me during this year's Financial Empowerment Conference Series? The answer is a lot. After our conference program, you'll have access to great content and experts throughout 2022, with an emphasis on putting your knowledge and power to work and sessions to arm you with what you need to improve your financial security. Our Putting Your Knowledge to Work series will not just present information, but will show you the how-tos so you can apply them to your own personal situation. We'll cover important core financial topics such as budgeting, boosting your credit score, eliminating your debt, pulling the trigger on when to retire, as well as others. All of these webinars will walk you through real-life cases or scenarios so you can see step by step how these challenges can be tackled, and you'll get useful tools to help you put the knowledge to work for yourself. We'll also have a series on legacy building. You might hear the term legacy and think that's only for certain kinds of people, but no matter what our financial status is, we all leave a legacy for the people around us. If we've learned anything from the last 2 years of the pandemic, it's that life is fragile and can change in a hurry. The legacy you leave is about more than just how much money or possessions you pass along. It's also about the information your loved ones will need to keep things functioning and the stories you want to keep alive when you can no longer tell them. In this series, we'll deal with the legal, financial, and personal components of putting your house in order so you can make things easier for the people and organizations you love should something happen to you. Our gold sponsor and strategic partner, Regions Bank, will be sharing the expertise of their professional team with us and leading a series of webinars on a variety of topics that include making home ownership a reality, maximizing your wealth, identity theft protection, and others. These classes will show you what you need to do, and the people and resources Regions has at its disposal will help you take the action needed to actually do it. We'll also have a series of webinars and classes on specific topics prominent in today's headlines and can impact your daily life and put you on better financial footing. You can look forward to sessions on assessing the new waiver for federal public service student loan forgiveness, seeing if a reverse mortgage may be right for you, making smart decisions on taking Social Security, understanding your Medicare enrollment options, and getting a handle investing in cryptocurrency. Finally, as much as we're dedicated to financial education, we understand our financial security means very little if we don't have the freedom to exercise the rights this society has promised all its citizens. One of our most basic and critical rights is the right to vote, which is becoming a greater challenge with each passing day. In our voter education series, we'll be partnering with civic and social organizations to help you understand the impact of the recently enacted election laws for the state of Georgia and how you can ensure they don't infringe on your opportunity to vote. We'll also provide sessions that will help you understand what's on the ballots, not only in the national elections, but the all-important state and local elections that affect your daily lives. The Financial Empowerment Conference Series is on a mission to make a difference in people's lives by equipping them with what they need to be financially healthy. Visit the Financial Empowerment Conference Series page on the Turner Chapel website regularly to see what's coming up, so you can keep up with what's coming and participate. We invite you to engage with us all year long in our series of webinars and programs that will help you not just know better, but also do better.
Dates are still being worked out, so we encourage you to come to the Financial Empowerment page on the Turner Chapel website periodically so you can see the specific dates and be able to register for those events as they come up. One item that is not included in the workbook, because we got the information from them a little bit later, is a new partner that we are working with. It's the National Faith Homebuyers Organization. They have a couple of events coming up this month. There's one on March 19th that is a virtual homeowners class, and then they have what's called an e-bus that is run by Fifth Third Bank, where people can come in, and you have flyers actually in your packets for those who are in person that give you more information about both of those events. So the e-bus event is on March 26th, that's Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So anybody who may be in the market for a home purchase or just want to do some things to maybe look at how to improve your credit and what have you, that opportunity will be presented then. It'll be in the parking lot, the main parking lot outside the church. So please make note of those couple of items. As I said, please come back to the website and see what dates are coming up in the not too distant future. And we want you not just to, again, gain the knowledge, but put that knowledge Before I bring up our speaker, let me just give you a little bit of housekeeping. Again, with the virtual and in-person, we're kind of trying to navigate that. For those who are doing the virtual, you will have the opportunity to ask questions. I'm actually going to be monitoring that on my phone. So we're not actually truly doing the live chatting, so to speak, but if you have a question, please put your questions in the chat as the speaker is speaking. We will take questions from the audience. We have some pre-submitted questions as well, and we'll try to get questions in from those of you who are in the virtual room also. So, with that, I'm going to introduce our speaker. We are so pleased to have this brother here. I'll tell you, I first heard of him last year. One of our financial empowerment team members sent me a link to a webinar, and I decided to listen to it, and I came away just thoroughly impressed. What impressed me the most, I think, was just how he communicated the subject matter, and you'll get a flavor of that as he does his presentation today. It was very easy to understand, very visual, and it really helped to reinforce the concepts. And I didn't actually realize it at the time, but he and I are in the same profession. We are both financial advisors. So it turns out we do have a lot of stuff in common. But I think the biggest thing we have in common is that we both have a heart for empowering people, especially those who may not always be catered to by the folks in our industry. And that's really something that touches me. In addition to being a financial advisor, he is a soon-to-be published author. And he has a book that's coming out very soon. We'll talk about our overtime session after the main session today, but you will have an opportunity to pre-order his book if you would like to do so. Also, I'm sure he will tell you this sometime during his speech, but he is a Morris Brown man and a very proud one. So that's another great connection to Turner with all of our Morris Brown folks, and of course Morris Brown being affiliated with the AME Church. So he should feel very much at home. I know you're going to learn more about him when he speaks, but I would like for you to put your hands together and welcome Brother Andre Williams to the keynote speaker.
Very happy to be here, and Pastor Bright, thank you for the invitation to be able to do my best to enlighten everyone about building wealth intentionally. Today, let me kind of give you a lay of the land what this is and what it ain't. What it is education, okay? It's not me trying to sell you some product or anything like that. When you hear me talk about different vehicles and different possible touch on some strategies or whatever, but I'm not making recommendations for anything. So, I want to empower everyone here today. Building wealth intentionally. That's what this whole conversation is about today. And although the information shared is going to be available or useful for everyone, I'm really going to be talking to African Americans, Black Americans. And you'll see why in just a moment. So let's get started, shall we? This is disclaimer information. That's my mug, but that's not important. We're going to move on past this. So let's start with the actual words of the presentation. Building. Y'all remember in school, the teacher told you anything with an ing, that was an action word. That was something that you were supposed to do, right? When we talk about building something, we're talking about the process or business of constructing something, okay? Wealth. A great quantity or store of money, valuable possessions, or riches. That's what everyone ideally would like to have, am I right? Yeah. Make sure I'm talking to the right crowd. I am right, correct? Yes. Okay. And then intentionally. When you do anything in life with intent, you're doing it with purpose. You're doing it on purpose. So you're doing things with a purposeful intent to build wealth. And that's the group that I'm speaking to today. Now, it doesn't matter what your circumstances or where you find yourself today, right? You may be heavily in debt. Income isn't where you want it to be. know that you can always turn things around, okay? One day at a time. Start making progress on your wealth planning journey. First of all, we got to change how we see the world. And it's very, very necessary for the African American community. 70% of all gross domestic product in the United States comes from what? Consumers. People buying stuff. The wealthy are the owners. The people who have the fortunes, and they depend on who to continue to build that wealth? Consumers. The people that buy things. This is a major, major problem in our community. Black America, last year, $1.6 trillion in spending power. Did you all know that? 1.6 trillion of spending power. Yet, what's the average household net worth in Black America? $24,000. Folks, something is wrong with this picture. Something is disastrously wrong with this picture. Think about it for a moment. You see your social media pages. What do we tend to do? We're spending on clothes. We're shopping, the popping bottles, the cars, the houses, so on and so forth. But we have no wealth. Now, I'm speaking from a perspective of, I'm generalizing. Some people in this room have done a great job. We're going to talk about that and reinforce some of the great things that you're doing. But the reality is, $24,000 is the average net worth. You know, the movie Baby Boy. Just because y'all in church, I'm actively never seen this movie. You remember the scene where Jody was sitting in the car line and he says, you know what? Today, I start a new life. Y'all remember that scene he was talking to people? And he said, I am the master of my abilities. It's going to be a great and beautiful day. Now, the thing is, we all can start today to do things differently. You can start today. It doesn't matter what your situation or circumstances. We can start to make a better day. Anybody know who this is? Anybody? $100 if you know who it is. So nobody knows who this man is. But that is Christian Louboutin. Y'all buy all his stuff, but you don't know who he is. He's worth $2 billion. Red bottoms. For men and women. Average price of red bottoms. $700. Average price. You want to get some customs? $4,000. Anybody see some folks with red bottoms? You know, they already got to sit and kind of show their foot, you know, so you know what's going on, right? Yeah. You know, the kind of shoes you might want to throw over your shoulder until you get off the sidewalk, and you don't want the red to, be going on. This is what we do, right? Status, clout chasing, wanting to look like somebody else. You go online, you get depressed by seeing somebody else's life and how successful it seems to be. So we want to try to keep up, like Pastor said, with the Joneses, right? But sometimes our checking account and our savings account, the way they set up, we ought not be trying to be at this level before our time. Now understand, I didn't say that you can't have nice things in life. I never said that. I never said you got to be a pauper and everything's got to be saved, because that's the fear most people have when we talk about investing. One of them, you're taking something away from you, right? What I want to do is show you how to turn that thinking on its head. Everybody say this with me. Mind, method, manage. First, it's all mental as far as building wealth. It all starts in the mind. You got to make up in your mind that you're going to do some things different if necessary. You got to make up in your mind that you're going to change some of your behaviors in order to make that next step in your financial journey. The method deals with your process, your approach, how you're going to go about achieving your specific goals. You can have 50 to 100 different advisors and have 50 to 100 different answers about what your approach ought to be. I just want to teach you, give you some little nuggets today to kind of help paint the picture of all the things that might go into your process. And then manage. You want to manage through life changes. So here's other billionaires benefiting from our hyper-consumerism. This is Prada. She's worth $4.8 Here's Mr. Francois. Gucci, Balenciaga, Yves Saint Laurent. Oh, you ballin'. Looking good, but ain't got no money in your bag. What kind of mess is this? Okay? We want to have wealth. Look at this, y'all. So, here's the chart. We call it the black wealth gap. And it's very real. $24,000 for white households, it's $189,000. Even Latinos is about $36,000. We all have to work together first of all, on our personal selves, but collectively, we need to do better. And here's the thing. Some of you in this audience, you make a large income, that means nothing, zilch, if you don't have a plan to turn that income into wealth. And that's one of the problems as well. You make $300,000, $400,000 a year, you got all this disposable income. We've got to change this mindset, the mind, first and foremost. So, wealth accumulation, you guys know what this is all about. When you don't have wealth, you can't make ends meet. Times get tough. Pandemic comes around, and you wonder what's going to happen. You live in check to check already. If I lose my job, what am I going to do? Because you hadn't prepared. Poor health. Anybody have to worry about money or how I'm going to pay these bills? Sometimes health can be impacted. So, these are other things I'm going to go ahead and move on because I have a lot to share. But wealth is important to give you financial peace of mind and actually get you where you want to be. So, how do you begin to change this narrative? How do you begin to accumulate wealth? You got to do what I call boss up. You got to boss up. Everybody is in control of their own lives and calls the shots. Maybe the shots you've been calling just ain't been working. So you're going to have to do a little something different. So what does that mean? What does it mean to boss up? Boss mode criteria. Criteria number 1, you've got to take control of your financial life and operate as an owner who gets paid and not as a consumer who spends. Operate as an owner who gets paid, not a consumer who spends. You got to wisely manage your finite resources. Everybody know we got finite resources. If you make $1 million, that's still finite. Why? Because eventually you may not have that anymore. If you lose your job, get sick, or something else. So manage the resources as if there's a day where it might end. Put in position to grow. Investing to have ownership in quality companies where thousands of employees now work for you. To me, this is one of the biggest things. How many people get up and go to work every morning? No? Is this because of the hybrid situation? You get to work from home, but you still, maybe you're working for somebody, or even if you're an entrepreneur. You work for somebody, you're in marketing, you're in the research and development department, you're doing something to make them money, but you get on your feet every day and you go to your job to make your check. What happens if you actually create a situation where hundreds of thousands of people go to work every day and they work for you? That's what happens when you own stock. So, and the companies that you're using, Apple, I know Apple is like, they got a cult as far as the, iPhones. Yeah, Apple, you gotta have I have an Android. I'm probably the only one in this room that has an Android. Okay, we got a couple. Okay, okay. So why not own Google? Everybody talks about Netflix and chill. Do you know how much money you could have made owning Netflix? And again, I'm not trying to tell you to go out and buy it today. I'm not saying that. All right? But my point is, own some of these companies. Be owners, not consumers. And then 4, you got to determine what adjustments are necessary to achieve profitability. Treat it like your life is a corporation. If you're operating at a net loss on an annual basis, where can we make some cuts? Maybe I don't need to have all the Hulu and Netflix and Fubo and all these other. Maybe I can cut some things there. I had a young lady who called me last week. She works for a company that I manage her 401k, and she owns $50,000. She makes $50,000 a year. He said, Andre, I just can't seem to make ends meet. Real quick on the phone, 10 minutes. I found out that, okay, you're in 2 bowling leagues. Let's cut one of them. Because when you got the bowling league, you pay these fees every week. Aren't you guys having some chicken wings and eating and you got to travel for gas? Let's cut that out. How much is that going to save you? She eats out 6 days a week. That's a big one for folks. Oh, I'm so busy. I ain't got time to cook. You know, I'm just on the go. I need to eat. Cut something out. Again, you're going to do something different. You want to make a difference in your life financially? Stop making excuses and get to work on figuring out how you're going to make profitability happen. It's time to be about your businesses. Now, I mentioned a moment ago, own companies. Well, you guys know Apple. We just talked about that a moment ago. Apple, how many employees do they have? Can you all see it? Let me come over here because I can. Apple has 154,000 employees. $378 billion in sales. Net income, $100 billion. When you own stocks, you get to participate in the growth of a company and also possibly even receive some of the dividends of that company. Did you have to go to Apple to work and punch a clock and put your time in? No. Others did, but you get paid for it. Boss Mode, Home Depot, they actually have like 500,000 employees. 300, this slide is wrong. It's actually their sales in the multiple billions as well, but that was input incorrectly. But the returns are accurate. What's the return for Apple? Over the last year, 36.98, call it 37%. That's the return on your money. You got excess cash in your bank, you say, I ain't really making no money. Hey, let's talk about how you can really grow some assets for yourself. 5-year average, 37.62%. Home Depot, 3-year average, 20.78%. 5-year average, 18.59. This is where the money's being made. But we allow what? Fear to dictate or cause us to not want to participate because we think about the loss aspect of if we put our money into an account, right? We got to start changing that mindset. We've got to start changing that mindset. Let's see the next slide here. So, had a hypothetical Naomi and Keisha. 2 young ladies, I made it a story, so just follow along with me. They work for the same company, been there for over 10 years, and they take a trip every year. Naomi has been taking her tax return and her bonuses and actually investing her money. Keisha likes to go out and buy the bags and all the clothes. We know we're about to go on this trip. We just went on one, but I need to get a whole new wardrobe because that one's too old. They can't see me on the gram with the same thing on, right? I got to get some all new clothes. So Naomi, this is what she did. This is what she did with her money. She got $6,000, and she basically split it up into 3 different companies: Apple, Netflix, and Ulta Beauty Supply. Now, these are real numbers based on actual performance of these stocks. Over a 10-year period of time, you'll see here that Naomi, over 10 years, what did she earn? What was her total gain on that $6,000 investment? You see below the triangle? $55,780 over that 10-year stretch, only on an investment of $6,000 for that 1 year. Now, she's investing that kind of money every single year. $55,000. So her return on investment, I did the calculations for you, she basically made a return of 930% across all those investments. You all see that? So if we look at Apple, she made a $19,980 gain. Netflix was $27,000 on a $2,000 investment, right? And then Ulta Beauty Supply was what? What was the gain? $8,520. Folks, this is that whole I'm making money when I'm asleep, right? People talk about that, but this is how you put it into place. And how do you make that happen? You've got to start freeing up some resources to start being an investor. So how did Naomi actually grow this money? How did that actually happen? Anybody ever heard of compound growth? What is compound growth? Anybody want to take a stab at it? Compound growth is basically when your money makes money. Everybody, just real quick, get your phone calculators. Everybody got phone calculators? Let's get a phone calculator real quick. That's right, we're going to be a little bit interactive today. That's right. So this is just how you do it, just quick math. Let's say you have $10,000, so everybody input 10,000. Multiply 10,000 by, we're going to have an 8% rate of return. Let's say 1.08. Multiply by 1.08 equals, what do you get after that first year? What's that? 10,800, and then you multiply that by 1.08, and then that's year's 2 return. Now, year two return was compounded on year 1's return. You all see that? So it was 10,800 multiplied by that next year's 8% return. That's compounding. And if you ran that out for 5 years or 10 years, you could play with the numbers yourself and see what that looks like. Compound growth is the way that money is made. That's a wonder of the world. It really is. That's the key ingredient. Compound growth. So in this example, you got $100,000 at a 5% rate of return. The compound growth is $15,762, whereas over that same 3-year period, if you got what we call straight line or linear, you're only going to get that $5,000 per year, or $15,000 at the end of that 3rd year. You all see that? So over time, the compounding effect is going to create a huge gap. But now, if you got a bank account right now, is anybody getting 5% on a bank account? Because if you are, I need to know. Money markets, because I need to come to you. So, right, the 100,000 is first, right? So I want everybody to understand that you got to start putting resources to work for the compound effect. Let's see. So how much did red bottoms actually cost if they were $700? I think I skipped a few slides here. Because remember, Keisha, she wanted to get the red bottoms to go on that trip. Now, here's cash today. And this is another thing that we do. We have a lot of cash in the bank because what? We like to look at our statements and see that we ain't lost nothing, right? Folks, that's false information. What was inflation at the end of last year? Anybody know? Inflation was at 7%, December 2021. January, 7.5%. If you got $100,000 sitting in the bank account and it's not earning anything, are you losing money? Your purchasing power is declining. You see $100,000 in the bank, but that $100,000 is probably more like might be $97,000 as far as purchasing power is concerned. If you're not being an investor, you're not keeping up with inflation. And when you talk about retirement years down the road and you can't keep up with inflation today, it's just going to be a compounding effect on your inability to retire comfortably unless you take action and boss up today. $100,000 back in the day, back in the 90s, you got a nice little interest rate, right? You can see that on 100,000, you would have got about almost 6,300 back in 1994. But today, you would get what? $80 on 100 grand. So here's what you ought to do with the excess cash. First of all, how much cash should you have on hand? That's probably one of the questions. 6 to 12 months living expense. 6 to 12 months living expense. If a pandemic comes around, Russia keeps tripping and things escalate, you don't want to have to worry about how am I going to pay my bills. But that 6 to 12 month mark, that's when you start to then become more of an investor. Now, I'm not saying you wait until you get 12 months. Don't get me wrong. And don't get overwhelmed like, oh my gosh, 12 months is going to take me forever. You start, get on your path, right? If you got expensive credit card debt, you're going to pay that down. If you got a 24% credit card, you got to get that paid off, okay? Don't even think about investing until you get those things addressed, because that's compounding in reverse against you, okay? So you want to get that paid off. So when we talk about the S&P 500 and we look at it from a long-term perspective, a lot of people still remember 2008, right? 2008 is what actually kept a lot of people on the sidelines. Nah, I ain't getting back into the market. I lost money, and it's emotional. People feel it when they lose money, and they remember that. It's more about what they feel than what they remember. I remember the fear that I had when I lost that money. I didn't know if I was going to get it back. I worked too hard for that, and that keeps you out of the market. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to overcome the fear, but if we look at this chart, and we look at 2008, and I'm sorry, my My laser pointer doesn't work on that screen. Good grief, what's going on here? But what happens is with the S&P 500, you know what happened after the downturn? Anybody want to take a guess? We saw the chart. What happened was it actually increased by a percentage of 401% from the bottom of the market. 401%. What do most people do? We hear this all the time. People buy high and sell the opposite of what you're supposed to do, right? The opposite of what you're supposed to do. But stop thinking so much about the prices and the price movement as much as you think about the companies that you're investing in, okay? What company do you have your money in? Is it a company that can continue to have growth going forward? Do they have a strong management team? Do they have financials that can help them withstand a market downturn? Are they in a sector of the economy that's going to be in demand no matter what happens, whether there's a war, whether there's a pandemic? Start thinking about it from the perspective of the companies. And I'm going to talk a little more about dividends in a moment. If you got companies that are paying you to hold those shares, that actually helps to buoy or hedge against any type of downside risk in future years. But when we go back to the pandemic, we had another decline, 34%. People were very nervous. And then what happened? The market climbed another 89%. So when you look at the trend, and I know we have some people in here that probably do charting or some day trading. Again, there's all kinds of ways to do stuff. But you can see the trend line here. Now, if a correction does come about and you're closer to retirement, there's some things you need to do differently than someone that might be younger and can withstand another downturn, right? Because sometimes it's called taking profits off the table. If you're at the top of the market and I'm 5 years out, I got a lot of gains, guess what? I'm selling some positions to put some of those gains into something that's going to give me some guaranteed cash flows or income when I get to retirement. Or more conservative investments, because I don't need to take on as much risk. To get the higher returns, you're going to take on some additional risk for that purpose if you're a long-term investor. So you got to understand, what are my goals? How do I feel about risk and volatility? And then what's my time horizon for the assets that I have in my investment portfolio? That determines what it's going to look like. Building wealth intentionally. You got to grow money. This is just the cool, for all the math heads in the room, this is how you calculate the compound growth rate on your money over any period of time. So Naomi, who invested in those three stocks, her return was 26% per year. That was her compound annual growth rate. So $7,000 is what, if you paid $400 for some red bottoms and you held it for a 10-year period of time and had a 26% rate of return, it's called opportunity cost. Anybody ever heard that word before? I've got money in my hand. I've got two choices. I can buy these shoes so I can go out and sit with my foot up and look cute for the gram, right? Or I can take this money and I can invest it. And if I make smart investments, I'll get a return. Now, I don't know about you. I'm not concerned about what anybody thinks about where I've been. I went to China and I came back and told friends, and they said, I don't believe you. I didn't see it on Facebook. This is like the new age. Like, it didn't happen if you don't show it. I'm not interested. I don't have to show you anything, right? What I want you all to have is money in the bank, money in your investment accounts, and the ability to live life and live life abundantly. Say abundance. That's what we're about, y'all. Abundance. Remember this. 15 to 20% of everything you earn is yours to keep. 15 to 20% of everything you earn is yours to keep. Now, I know some of you are saying, impossible. 15 to 20%, I'm trying to make it today. Again, that goes back to trying to find the cutbacks. Take it step by step, as Pastor talked about. Hey, you might have come out of some debt last year. You might have retired some credit cards from last year. That's progress. If you keep making progress, guess what? You're on that journey and you're on the path towards hitting other milestones. But here's what I want to impress upon you guys. 15 to 20%. This is your income every year. These jelly beans represent every dollar of your income. 15 to 20% means that I'm not going to use all this money to go out here and buy stuff that makes me feel emotionally good. I'm going to take a percentage of everything I earn every year, and this goes back into investments and something that's going to benefit me long term. Okay? What we got to stop doing is taking every single dollar we make for granted. Stop taking it for granted because there's power in a seed. Mighty oak trees come from what? So stop taking every dollar for granted. Now, with these seeds, you plant them. You plant these seeds in your 401k. You plant $1 in your 401k. Now, what happens with many employers? What do? Many employers give you a what? Match? If I put in $1 in my 401k, and then I have, and this is a key point, y'all. So we talked about compounding. But what happens if you actually get help along the way from other sources? So when it comes to me putting $1 into my 401k, the employer says, oh, guess what? We're going to match what you put in. If I put in $1 and my employer puts in $1, what's my return on that? It's 100%. I haven't had to take on any risk at all, and I got 100% return on that dollar. You all see that? Now, what else can come from that? Because in that 401k, I'm investing. Now, what happens then is some of the companies that you invest in say, oh, guess what? We're going to pay you dividends for the shares that you have of stock in our company within the 401k plan. What else happens? You might have some bonds. The bonds are going to pay interest. These are dollars that you didn't put in. This was activated by you putting $1 into your 401k plan. What else? You got certain investments like alternative investments that give you something called distributions. This is when you have a well-diversified portfolio. And the big one, anybody want to guess? It's the capital gains, the growth, the stocks. See, you guys ain't hearing what I'm saying. When you start to say, I'm not going to take my income for granted anymore, I'm going to start taking 15 to 20% to invest, I've got all these other sources of growth opportunity that I didn't even have to work for, right? Now, 401k, you guys are familiar with those, right? Other types of investments, individual retirement accounts. Something else I didn't talk about is when you have 401k plans, IRAs, Uncle Sam kind of kicks in a little bit and helps as well. Why? Because all that growth that you're getting is tax deferred when it's in these plans. In fact, you got that for me? What you guys have to understand is it's called asset placement. So we know about 403B retirement plans. Any educators? No? That's for teachers, nonprofits. 457s. This is for government workers. These are different types of assets. Now, here's how the rich folks do it. They understand that when I have 457s, when I have 401ks, they go in a certain place. They're tax sheltered. IRAs, sheltered. You got the growth on the money, but when you invest in these types of accounts, specifically, tax sheltered. Now, let's see, what else do I have here? Annuities. You got pre-tax and after-tax types of annuities. But these can also be tax sheltered. Why is that important? Because it lets the money grow faster. If you got taxes, is that going to slow the growth or speed it up? The tax deferral aspect of it is going to allow it to grow at a faster clip. Now, IRS, Uncle Sam says, any money in this, 401ks, those types of vehicles, shelter from taxes, right? That's why people use these. So if you're getting the employer contributions, you're getting all these other methods of making money within those accounts, that's why one of the largest assets people have is going to be the 401k or the IRA. Now, if you pull money from that shelter before age 59 and a half, what happens? Ordinary income taxes and 10% penalty, right? So you got a game plan for how you use these different vehicles. What are some other vehicles that you can plant seeds into? I heard somebody say Roth IRA. We got a Roth IRA. How's that work? Tax now, tax-free growth. Some of you all probably heard of Bank on Yourself. You probably overfunded some cash value life insurance policies. After tax, are you paying taxes on the growth of the cash values? And can you withdraw money from those cash values tax-free? The answer is yes. Municipal bond funds, we call those munis. After tax, tax-free growth. So what we'll do here is we'll say we got different types of accounts. These accounts, after tax, tax-free distributions, we're going to put a little shelter over those. But these are paid with after-tax dollars. This was pre-tax dollars. That makes sense? Everybody seeing that? Now, this plant right here is a brokerage account. Brokerage accounts is where you can own stocks, bonds, mutual funds, same things that you can own in these other types of accounts, but it's after tax, and you'll pay taxes along the way. Depending on when you take a distribution from that particular account, you'll pay either ordinary income tax or you'll pay a capital gains tax. So we're going to look at that in a moment. But my point is, you've got to start not taking this for granted. Because when you start to take advantage of the opportunity to save 15 to 20%, and you start to build these various accounts that are growing on a compound basis, remember Naomi just a minute ago, if you can tax defer it as well, now you're making money. Now you're making some serious money. And by the way, there's real estate. That's another asset. I just want to bring all those pots, okay? Real estate. My entrepreneurs in the room, your businesses. Are you leveraging your businesses to the best of your ability? You might be making a lot of money, but are you putting that money to work in some form or fashion? 15 to 20% is what we're targeting. So, stocks, funds, investment accounts, what's this all about? We looked at Apple and Home Depot just a moment ago. You can own those as an individual within your own brokerage account, or Charles Schwab, or Robinhood, or whatever account you want to utilize. Or you can have it go into a mutual fund. And a mutual fund is where individuals, you'll look at the website and you'll see somebody went to Boston College or Yale or Harvard. This is a team that manages the assets for you. A mutual fund is a company, and they determine what stocks are going to be purchased within the mutual fund on your behalf. So you have no say in what's being bought and sold, and some of you don't, quite frankly, want to do all that. You want somebody else to do it for you. In your 401ks, you have mutual funds. Then you have index funds. Some of you have probably heard about those. That's just an index of companies that are represented by a basket in an index. There is no management team with an index fund, okay? And then you have exchange-traded funds. Kind of like an index fund, except it trades on an exchange like a stock, intraday. So if I wanted to take advantage of an opportunity in healthcare or tech or cybersecurity or semiconductors or whatever it is, I can buy the ETF that has the basket of companies that are represented in that particular ETF. And then mutual funds, index funds, exchange-traded funds, they can be in your 401k, your IRA, your 403bs. So if you all went back out to your employer plans and you looked at your actual statements, you'll see what funds you invest in currently. You can look at the performance of those funds. You can look at the prospectus of the money managers. They'll tell you, this is our approach to investing money that you put into this fund with us. Sometimes you have index funds, and pay attention to the fees. If you have some really expensive funds, you might, and especially if they don't perform very well, you might want to look at other options within your 401k. To my business owners, entrepreneurs, you can set up a 401k or a SEP IRA for yourself through your company. If you're an individual, you can have a solo 401k. You can set up a SEP IRA. There's simples, there's other types of IRAs. I don't want to necessarily get into all those, but the thing is, you have the ability to put away money, save yourself some money on taxes, because when you contribute to that 401k or that 403b or what have you, how does that impact your income? It reduces your taxable income. That's why it's pre-tax. So to the entrepreneurs out there, you guys want to be involved in that too. You don't have to work for a big employer. If you've got a small company, set up your own retirement plan. But this is generally how things work when it comes to mutual funds, stocks, because sometimes people say, I don't know what's going on in my 401k. This is pretty much what happens. And then you might have stock options from the company and say, okay, we're going to give you a match, or we're going to give you some kind of a bonus, and it might be in stock. So you'll see stock in that 401k, as opposed to cash that goes into some of the mutual funds. Does that all make sense, y'all? Okay. So as an example, mutual fund A might have $270 billion in assets under management. The fund's investment objective is to provide you with growth, capital appreciation, and income. Actually, this is just growth of capital. So you can go out and look at, and folks, start taking more interest in your retirement plans, okay? Don't just set them off to the side and say, I don't know what's going on, it's your money. It's your livelihood. Is it performing as well as it should? Has it been lagging when maybe the index that it's pegged against is doing much better? Take interest in your wealth. Taxes. You heard me talk about tax shelter, after tax, tax-free distribution. Let's kind of look a little bit closer at some of these tax aspects. So here's ordinary income taxes in 2022. So if you're married, filing jointly, and you make a household income of $150,000, what's your tax bracket? 150. Your effective tax rate is what? Married, filing jointly, 22%. You see that? You just look at the range of income. If you make $450,000, you're at what? 35% tax bracket. See, that's just the income aspect for taxes. What people don't know is when you make over a certain amount of income, you actually have additional taxes that you need to pay. I'm not an accountant. I'm just giving you the information because financial planners have to figure out how to mitigate some taxes in some ways. But if you're married, filing jointly, or individual with $200,000, you pay an additional 0.9% additional Medicare tax. But that's not all. 3.8% net investment income tax. Now, this applies to investments that are outside of the tax shelter. Tax shelter, that doesn't apply. Why? Because it's tax sheltered until you withdraw it for retirement purposes. But when you have your brokerage account and you're investing in the stocks and the mutual funds and in the after-tax account, then these are taxes that you have to consider. So the 3.8% tax will be stacked on top of, potentially, capital gains tax. So again, 3.8 is if you make $250,000 or more as a couple, $200,000 as a single individual. You're paying that 3.8% when you get interest and gains on investment assets. And then here's the capital gains tax. So I hope y'all doing the math on this. Capital gains tax, 15%, plus 3.8%, plus 0.9%, plus ordinary income. See, ordinary income tax doesn't apply when you sell stocks. My point being, tax efficiency, or trying to plan for and be as tax efficient as possible, helps a lot. Then when it comes to estate taxes, if you make enough money, you were fortunate enough to build your wealth up to a certain place, Uncle Sam says, thank you. Now, it's a pretty heavy lift because right now there's something called an exemption amount. This is the amount of money or assets, wealth that you can accumulate, pass on to the next generation, and not have an estate tax. And right now, that is $12.06 million per person. So if you got a husband and wife, that's $24 million. That's exempt. But Congress is talking about bringing that back down, that exemption amount. Why? Because you want to capture more people with estates that are at the point where they could apply the tax. So say if it went back down to $5 million, right? That's a big drop. So somebody, I don't make any assumptions. Somebody might have $25 million. Hey, you could do that. And then you got the estate tax. Now look at the estate tax. People say, I want to leave my IRA to my estate. If you don't name a beneficiary for your IRA, it goes to your estate, and it could be a hefty tax, potentially. 37%. And it only has to be at $13,452 before it's applied at 37%. So, qualified plans, when we talk about planting seeds, the aggregate limit for 401ks this year is $61,000. So this is how much that can be put away on a pre-tax basis. But let me clarify. If you're a W-2 employee working for a company, as an employee, you can put away $20,500 on a pre-tax basis. Everybody see that? Now, if you're over the age of 50, you can put away an additional $6,500 for a total pre-tax contribution as an employee of $27,000. Okay? That's going into the tax shelter. Now, the employer, the match component of that, can still be made. That's just you as an employee. That's your portion. When you put together the employee and employer amounts, that's called the 415C limit, and that's $61,000 on a pre-tax basis. Make sense? Okay. So all that is important to know because that's how you begin to maximize the opportunity to put monies away for yourself. Now, some of you may have heard people talk about don't put your money into a mutual fund. You've probably seen these commercials. If you got over $500,000, don't put your money into a mutual fund. The reason why they're saying this is because they're talking about tax efficiency, right? Because when you have a mutual fund, that's the after-tax account. You don't have any say in what's being bought and sold and when. So the money managers of that mutual fund in that after-tax account, if they sell shares of Delta or shares of Google at a nice profit, you still own the shares of that mutual fund. You can still get a 1099 at the end of the year. That becomes a bit of a problem if you're a high income earner and you really aren't trying to have any more taxes, right? So exchange traded funds give you the ability to control the tax because you yourself control when the buy and sell occurs. Does that make sense? Mutual funds, somebody else is making the decision about when to buy and sell on my behalf. They're the professionals, they're doing all the research, analysis, etc. ETFs, I'm making the decision about when to buy and sell based on my research. Or it could be somebody else, an advisor that you work with is doing it for you, but the point is, you get to say, I don't want to sell this year because I got a big bonus and it was bigger than what I anticipated. Let's push that off to next year where my income might be a little less. Does that make sense? Because you're trying to reduce the tax. All this is about building your wealth and being intentional with it. So if we look at the math for Naomi's savings, I'm going to go through this real quick. And guys, just follow along with me. I know sometimes numbers get people a little bit off. But if Naomi decided she was going to save 20% of her money, she made $100,000, that's $20,000 she's going to save. She's decided she's going to save $10,000 on a pre-tax basis, $10,000 on an after-tax basis, because she doesn't want all of her money tied up in the pre-tax because it's all going to be subject to ordinary income tax. So she's trying to create what we call tax diversification. Some of my money is going to pay, I'm going to pay lesser taxes when I retire, or none. Some of it I'll pay ordinary income tax. But with this 401k, the $10,000 that she puts in, let's say she gets a 6% match, so she's got $6,000 from the employer, which is an immediate return, am I right? That's $16,000 that went into her 401k. On the brokerage side, she decided she wanted to go 70% in growth-oriented investments, whether it was individual stocks or mutual funds, and then she went 30% in income-oriented investments, things like bonds, alternative investments, maybe REITs. So she split that out, $7,000, $3,000, earning 8%. We'll assume 8% on the growth money, 3% on the income-oriented money. So we do the math here, we can see that on her 401k, the 8%, she got 8% on $16,000, that's $1,280. She got 8% on the 7K that she invested in her brokerage account, and that was what? $560 as a gain. And then $120 with the income-oriented portion. So her total gain was what? $7,960. Everybody see that? So her total gain across her whole portfolio, 39.8%. A big part of which was the employer match. You guys see that note? See how those numbers work? Okay. So you want to make sure that you're at least getting those dollars from the employer. So the question is, okay, well, 20%, that's pretty hefty. Like how can I possibly put away that kind of money? You're talking crazy to me. It's not the case, y'all. I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of times, the 20%, 15%, when you say it's too much, you could do it. You just choose to do otherwise. If I see what you drive, what you wear, if you're going out eating steaks 2 or 3 days a week, that's your 20% right there. This is just a hypothetical budget. Even if I was off, and you say, man, my utilities are much more than that. Even if I was off, there's still $9,340 remaining after all the expenses. And this is the guy who put away the money on a pre-tax basis in the 401k. So how are we managing our cash flow? What can we do different with our cash flow? We've got to free up some capital to do some of the things that we're trying to do as far as investments are concerned. Because when you go to a bank to get a loan for a home or a loan for your business, you want to open up a franchise, you can't go in there with a truckload of bags and shoes and say, hey, here's my collateral. No. So what are you going to do different? I'm a bit fearful of investing. Let's talk about the fear aspect. That's very real because a lot of us didn't come from money. Maybe nobody taught us about investing and we just kind of listen to Kiplinger's or whomever and kind of just dabble our way through and look up on some investments or some returns. But here's the thing. What's the source of the fear? Why are you so fearful about investing? Fear of loss. I worked too hard. I came from I came from a family that didn't have nothing. I don't want to be like that. I gotta keep everything. I want to see my money, right? But we see how that works out when you have too much money in cash. Have adequate cash reserves. The market goes down 20%, 25%. You ought not be overly worried. That doesn't mean you don't manage your money or make tactical adjustments. But if you got cash on the sidelines, my short-term needs are squared away, right? In fact, when the markets are down, and they have been here lately, it's an opportunity to buy more if you're a long-term investor. Dial back the risk that you take. No one said you have to be 100% stocks, okay? You can actually have a more conservative investment portfolio if that makes you emotionally feel better. And as you feel more comfortable and confident, you can say, okay, I'm gonna take another 10% from over here on this conservative side, and I'm gonna put it back over here on this aggressive growth or something moderate. Start small. Nobody's saying take all the cash that you've been hoarding for the last few years and put it all in the market. No, you can put a little bit in each month. That's called dollar cost averaging, okay? That makes you feel more comfortable. So if you have a little bit of a loss, well, hey, all my money's not exposed to that loss. Continue to educate yourself. I'm big on education. I feel like the more educated you are, the more empowered you are to understand the what and why of what you're doing. And then pay off expensive debt. The reason why I say that is because that debt is a burden on people's shoulders. So if you can pay that down, you don't want to be dealing with, I'm fearful of investing, I'm losing over here, and I got to pay this out over here. It feels like too much pressure. Take care of that expensive debt and develop a game plan to pay it down. And then there are various products out there that are meant to control volatility. There's a lot. You hear people talk about equity indexed annuities because they don't have any downside loss. They do have a cap on what you can actually gain on the upside, but you don't have any loss, so that can allay those fears. You got buffer products. The first 25 or 30% of a decline, you don't even see that because it's guaranteed to not impact your portfolio. You got bonds that aren't as volatile. You got non-traded investments that don't even participate in the market on a day-to-day basis. So you got products out there designed to assist you and get you where you want to be without you having to take on all the investment risk that you might be concerned about. And I'm a big believer in dividends. What are dividends? What's that? Dividends are a company sharing in the earnings of the business with you in your account. Whether it's your brokerage account, whether it's your IRA, your 401k, they're paying some of the dividends. Well, dividends are actually very important to a portfolio. This chart right here shows you, if you look at this top chart, you see that price, the lower one, this goes back to the 1970s. If you had invested $10,000 in the S&P 500, excluding the dividends, excluding the payouts from those companies, look at what the end value would be, $408,000. But if you include the dividends, now we're looking at $1.8 million. So you need to have dividends in that portfolio. In fact, all of those investments, the dividends, the capital appreciation, that entire stack that I talked about earlier, that's called your total return. So all these things make up total return in your portfolio. So it's very important that you have those components. And then the lower one, the bottom part of the chart just shows you if you were overly conservative and you invested in T-bills or treasury bills, what's your end number on 10,000? $175,000. That goes from 1947 to 2020. So we're looking way back. And you only got $126,000 versus if you were in the stock market, $89.4 million for small cap stocks. And by the way, small cap stocks are just small companies, okay? You think about the slide I showed you earlier with Apple, where you saw Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak when they first got started. Apple was a small company that grew to a mid-sized company that then grew to a large cap, right? And cap means capitalization. So sometimes when you participate in these small companies, and probably you could do it through a mutual fund who does all the research on your behalf, they're going to find some gems as far as companies that are part of that portfolio, and you can ride that wave of growth. So on a total return basis, we call this the accumulation phase of your life, when you're looking for seeking out the capital gains, the dividends, the distributions, the interest on the bonds, which would be a lesser amount. In the accumulation phase, you're really more so focused on the growth, the capital gains. That's the accumulation phase. Now, what happens is there comes a point where you've identified right about when you want to retire. I might be 5 or 10 years out from retirement. I've done really well for myself. Now you've got to start thinking about the distribution planning, because now that's important as far as where am I taking income from and when? Am I going to pull the trigger on Social Security early, or am I going to wait till later where it can grow each year by about 8% to give me more income to stave off inflation? And I got longevity in my family, so I really got to make sure that I got money for the duration of my life, because nobody wants to keep living and run out of what? Money. So what's your income plan? You got to shift gears. I'm out of the growth phase. I still want some growth in my portfolio, but I'm more concerned about what my portfolio is going to be giving me for income purposes. And I might want to have some guarantees wrapped into that. So when you come over to the right side, you see what's got the distributions. You see dividends, pension, Social Security. This is what a friend of mine, Tom Hickner, calls paychecks. When I retire, my budget is $5,000 a month, let's say, hypothetically. I want $5,000 of guaranteed cash flows coming to me to match my fixed expenses. Fixed expenses need to be matched by fixed income. Now, I still want to live life. Me and the missus say we want to travel 4 or 5 times a year. I might get into a hobby. That's the paychecks. That's where you get the capital gains on stocks, the distributions from your alternative investments, interest from bonds. Those are things that might fluctuate a little bit, but you got peace of mind because you know, hey, I got the main thing is being covered, right? That's my paychecks are coming in to cover everything that I need. My paychecks fund my lifestyle. That make sense? Paychecks are going to be things that might have a little bit of volatility, some gyrations or whatever. And if the market happens to go down in the given year, okay, maybe you don't take as many trips. But I like to design those kind of portfolios where it's a lot of dividends being paid out from various companies, because that's giving you the ability to play a little bit. Here's some investment tips. Maintain a position in investments that pay. That's your dividends, those are your distributions. I can tell you now, I was talking to somebody yesterday, works for Verizon. Verizon's dividend yield is like over 5%. Telecom company. That means if I had $100,000, I'm getting paid $5,000 a year. But if I've got multiple investments, just think about all the cash flow, the checks that are coming in from those different companies. Have a diversified portfolio of holdings. You don't want everything to be in one particular sector. I don't care if you feel like Bitcoin is going through the roof. It is very, very unwise to put all of your money into any one particular company or one particular sector. It's just not smart. And if you're starting off as an investor, you don't start off with NFTs and Bitcoin. That's too much risk, especially for you just to be getting started. Because the concern then would be if you lost 30, 40%, you're like, see, this is why I shouldn't have touched this to begin with. So start off with companies that you know probably have mutual funds or ETFs or something that has more broadly diversified investment holdings. The high risk plays, I just kind of mentioned that, the Bitcoins, you don't want to start out there. If your next door neighbor says they made 80% return, congratulate them, but that's not for you at this moment. AMC, GameStop, I had clients calling me, how'd you miss this? Because it's a fool's play. Think about AMC. Has anybody been to the movie theater in the last 2 years? Okay, not many. Okay, but during the pandemic when everything was shut down, was anybody going to AMC? So I'm investing in a company that doesn't even have any customers, and that makes sense. The fundamentals weren't there. That was a game where some group of people were trying to stick it to Wall Street because they were shorting the AMC stock because of the business reasons. The business case was, they're not making any money, I'm gonna short this stock. People make money on shorts when the stock price goes down. So then this group of people said, I'm gonna go stick it to Wall Street and we're gonna bid the price up so the short sellers of it actually lose money, because short sellers lose money when stock goes up. But there's not a good business case or an investment thesis for something like that. But that's not the kind of thing you wanna have in a portfolio. So the next thing I say, you gotta expect volatility. Volatility is a normal part of investing, all right? I didn't say put all your money in the stock market. I mentioned earlier, there are products that you can use, buffers, annuities, various things that you can have some of your assets in, but for the portion that you have invested in the market, volatility is normal, kind of like turbulence on a plane. You're gonna get there, a little bit of turbulence, can be fearful at times, but don't get out of the market. In fact, there's a chart that shows if you miss the best 5 days over a number of years, it's an exorbitant difference in the price of your portfolio or the performance of your portfolio. So stay invested. Remember, that's a piece of the puzzle. You've got your cash reserves. You've got some other investments that aren't invested to such a high risk level. Those investments that you have for growth, stay invested. You might change out of a particular company or a particular fund, but stay invested to continue to grow your assets. Begin with ETFs or mutual funds. All my beginners out there. Maybe if I've got, I can do $200 a month, you're not gonna be able to go out and buy a stock of Google that's over $2,000, right? Start off with something that you can afford and use the ETFs because it gives you broader diversification. So you got companies represented in the ETF that you couldn't pay for on a one-off basis with that stock alone. That make sense? And then be tax efficient. If you're in a high income tax bracket already, the last thing you need is some additional taxes that cause you to have to pay Uncle Sam more money. So be tax efficient. That's gonna be the tax shelters. When you have brokerage accounts, a lot of times there's something called tax loss harvesting, where you're strategic with when you sell stocks in that brokerage account and when you buy, so you can reduce the tax hit. All right, y'all. I said I wasn't gonna cry. 2017 was a magical year for football. Atlanta Falcons fans in the room? Okay, we got to. I understand why. I mean, yeah, ain't that many. 2017, I was at a sports bar. Falcons had played ball all year. We was ready for Tom Brady. Bring him on. DJ's in there. He's doing his thing. Halftime, the score was 21-3. Couldn't tell me nothing. My brother AJ had come down, and he's a Cincinnati Bengals fan, and I'm telling him now, you want to join the Falcons club? This is your time. At halftime, we can go in and accept you. Chest bumping, wings for everybody. I mean, it was just hype in the room. Final score, 34-28. What in the world happened? How did this, you could see this coming a mile away. Nobody can do ball control? Like, run the clock out. What's going on? What's the moral of the story? Don't count your chickens before they're hatched. When it comes to you being an investor, manage the second half and compete to the finish. Listen, it doesn't matter if you got 3 million, 4 million, and you all excited about how much money you made in your portfolio and my IRA and 401k is at this amount. I'm doing it. You've got to manage the second half. You've got to manage the second half because taxes and not understanding the rules about how to take distributions from your different retirement accounts will kill a portfolio. Long-term care. Anybody ever take care of somebody? How much is a nursing home these days? You said $50 a day? $150 a day. Yep, $150 a day. So call it $70,000 a year. You got to pay $70,000 a year for long-term care, and all you got is your investments, and you got to start spending that down to pay for it. Because does Medicaid kick in? What are they going to ask you for? Evidence of your assets. You got to spend yours first, right? You better have a game plan for that long-term care. You better have a game plan. And what if you're the breadwinner in the household? What if you're the breadwinner and your family depends on you and you die early? You and the spouse, y'all made plans. We're going to retire at this age and we're going to invest this amount of money. We got the 20%. But you're not there to see the projected $2 million, $3 million that you're going to have in the future. And so if you're the primary breadwinner, that means the income or the investments that were going to be made every year is lost. What are you going to do? No, but what is your family going to do? I want to show you all something. Because this is one thing that we don't get right. Anybody ever heard of life insurance? Anybody ever heard of life insurance? I call it the great equalizer. It's the great equalizer. I'm going to get a couple of people from the audience here. Come up, please. You come up too? And I'll have you come. Now, okay, so you come over here. Okay, now, here are the kids. I know this is the kids. Now here's the missus. Now, this is fake money, by the way. Let's be clear. This is fake money. It says on it, motion picture, okay? Because I ain't bringing this kind of money out for no, okay. Here's my income every year, right? This is what the household is used to. This is how everybody eats. This is how we created this lifestyle, private schools for the kids. This is how we live. I'm the primary breadwinner. Got life insurance. What we ought to be doing, we're not doing. Because, come over here. Because I want to make sure that whether or not I'm here or not, the family's going to be okay. But here's the reality. How many people love their families? Show of hands. How many people love their families unconditionally? I got news for you. A lot of us love our families conditionally. Let me tell you why. Because this lifestyle, when we're getting it while I'm alive, making this money, everything's good, right? But if I die and I didn't have life insurance, that lifestyle was based on the condition that I'm still here. That's conditional love. What life insurance is I'm taking, this is the money I made. It's a lot of bread, right? I'm going to take a few dollars here. What's this called? What's this called? Premium. I'm paying it to my insurance guy every year. I make this amount of money. I'm paying it to my insurance agent. And so I die. Now, this is unconditional love. This is what unconditional love looks like. The missus, the insurance agent comes and provides her with money. Money. Now, what's inside that box depends on what you plan. What are you trying to do? Well, we want to make sure that kids go to private school and they finish. Got a little money for college. It's important that we leave a legacy. Because we talk about building wealth intentionally, it shouldn't stop with us. It should be passed on and teach these kids. What we do is we take everything we earn and we out here just paying out to everybody. Then we have nothing left, and then we go to the credit card companies to get more money because we have this insatiable appetite to consume. But if I don't have the life insurance, that's just like saying, I don't care about y'all. You see what I'm saying? People say, I've got coverage through my employer, $50,000 or 1 times your pay. It's not enough, typically, for what you're trying to accomplish. And you need to have the life insurance. We don't want to talk about it because it's either talking about death or you talking about me paying something for, I don't see anything, I don't value that, or you're just trying to get a commission. Guess what? The person you bought that car from got a commission. The person you bought that house from When you went to that retail store to get those red bottom shoes, you were happy to see that person got the commission. Hey girl, I'm back again. We care about that. We don't value this. We need to start valuing this. Okay? Thank you. Thank you, folks.
I keep this.
So I want everybody to be clear that this money stuff is nothing but a tool. A tool. You can have a lifestyle that is nice for a period of time while you're alive, or you can start to position some of this, a percentage of this, so that you can have this for a lifetime and enjoy that life. And then if you die and you're no longer here, your family's still going to be all right. I need everybody to understand that living a life of abundance requires some effort, right? I'm not interested in everybody kind of shaking their heads in here today and not doing anything to take action to make a difference going forward. Intentional, building wealth intentionally. What are you going to do to be more intentional about your approach? How are you going to change and adjust your mind so that you can create your method to build your wealth? I sincerely hope that you all get on that path, because if you don't, time is going to catch up with you. You're going to lose a job. There's going to be a pandemic. Something is going to expose your lack of preparation. So this is the insurance that I was talking about a moment ago. I kind of just got into it. But if somebody's making $50,000 a year, and one of them dies, they got 2 children. If that person's $50,000 grew by 2% per year, total lifetime income was over $2 million. That's how you got to look at that. So the annual investment of $10,000 per year at 8% for 30 years, because remember, they're investing, this couple got $100,000, they're investing $20,000. So if one of them dies, that $10,000 investment is lost. So over 30 years, that's $1.1 million. That's what the family lost because that person died. That's why you have the insurance to replace that money. Did it all make sense? And the type of coverage you get, you got term, we can talk about that another time, but you need to have it, and you need to have it a sufficient sum. When I was younger, it's one of my favorite movies. This kind of reminds me about procrastination. Is it gonna work? Oh man. Here we go.
He's hooking. Damn, Rod, come on! What's the matter with you?
Tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow.
There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
There is no tomorrow. Start your planning process now. Anything can happen. Somebody could get out here and get into an accident. Anything can happen. Somebody could get a stroke, heart attack. You might get a medical diagnosis that you didn't see coming, and you can no longer get insurance, or you can no longer go to work. So the income that you're earning today, because you took it for granted, won't be there anymore. Do something different. Be intentional. Folks, I hope that you all understand my passion. I hope I didn't offend anyone. It's all love. But I really need you to understand that for us to close that black wealth gap, which is very real, each one of us is going to have to take a proactive, measurable step or steps in the right direction. I thank you for your time. And I think we're going to have questions or Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to go back and review and make sure that everybody understood, because it gets lost when you talk about return.
Yes.
That we realize that that's an average. The return is an average. You're going to lose some, But the question is, are you gaining more than you're losing? I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, absolutely.
You always mention return, but I don't think you ever mentioned the fact that that's an average.
Yes.
As far as what you gain and lost.
Yes, that is correct. So he was just pointing out that the returns that I showed, that was an average return over a period of time. So there will be years where you have downturns in the market. You will have negative years. Average means that if I take a period of 5 years, I've got 3 up years and 2 down, it may average out to be a positive return of some amount. But that's why I was saying stay invested even through those years where you see a slide in the market. It doesn't mean that you don't make any adjustments or be tactical and say, okay, we're going to move out of this particular sector and move into something else, per se, but it does mean remain invested. Okay? Next question. That was a good one.
Hello. Hi, I'm sorry. I wanted to thank you for your presentation. It really opened my eyes a lot. And I don't mean to be comical, but I'm a Keisha. So what happened to her? Because can she do like Naomi? Can she start again?
Yeah, so remember I said at the top, it doesn't matter where you are. You can make adjustments. Now, obviously it depends on the situation, but you can climb out of anything if you're disciplined and are truly dedicated to making that happen. The problem as I see it with some people is they want to fix things, but if you say, hey, listen, that $1,000 a month lease on that Range Rover or whatever, see, you start, no, don't talk about my Range Rover. Now, I'm not going to do that. I do want to get out of this, but don't talk about me having to give up this. See, that's what happens. So it's about what's the priority, right? Do you want to continue to look, successful or feel good with this car or clothes or whatever it is, materialism, or do you really want to truly have some financial independence that you're creating for yourself? But once you make that decision and you're committed to it, you can do it. Yep, absolutely. Other questions? Oh, got a question in the back.
I have 2-part. Okay. Well, no, it's just one. I'm going to do one. I'm going to save for others. Thank you for all that you have provided. I appreciate it.
Sure.
So you touched base just briefly saying, hey, you want to make sure if you're just starting out to make sure you go to the low risk, stay away from like the NFTs, I think you said, Bitcoin. And then, of course, cryptocurrency has been a big talk as well. Mm-hmm. So help us understand when is a good time to maybe start wading into the market, because it seems like the ones that get in first are always the ones that get on top. So help us understand that, because you're saying stay out.
Okay. So as far as getting into the market, I think it's first things first, cash reserves. I think you need to have some cash reserves, because some people want to get into the market and they're investing money that they might need in the short term, which I don't agree with. I think you ought to have some cash cushion, so to speak. The second thing is that if you got expensive debt, if you got expensive debt that's costing you 24%, like these credit cards, some of them 27%, you need to really work on addressing that first and foremost, because the markets, you're working on a long-term target rate of return that could decline. That 24, 27%, that's guaranteed, and that's compounding, right? So that works against you as far as your ability to build net worth. So I would say that those are kind of two things that I would want to have you address first and foremost. But when you start to build your portfolio, you want to start off with having depending on how much money you get. Now, if you got a lump sum and you can actually build that portfolio, that's a different story, because you might actually be able to do a little carve out for some exposure to the cryptocurrency space. But I'm talking about somebody that maybe says, I want to put away, a small amount each month, or I've only got, $5,000 to start or whatever. You don't want to be in the highest risk investments as a starting point. You really want to have a mutual fund or an ETF that gives you broad diversification with some quality companies. Then as you build, you can then start to say, okay, I call it the core of a portfolio. Then you might start to have some satellite positions that are more risky, but you've already determined, I know I can stand to lose this, but my corpus of my portfolio is going to be intact. That's kind of what the approach that I think you should take.
I know it was coming.
So that's thank you for saying that. So you're not saying don't do it, but you just want to be careful
No.
with it. Right.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying as far as a starting point for investing,
right?
If you're starting out, that would be something that you build into that portfolio. But I'm not. But the initial dollars I wouldn't put into that particular investment.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying. It's like my husband does that, but he, like during the pandemic, I'm in the hospitality industry. I was like, look, I'm telling you, go into that. He's like, I got you, but we're not going to just invest in these particular companies by itself. He did it up under, I guess, is that the EFTs you were talking about?
NFTs?
NFTs. Well, however, the diversified strategy piece where you had an umbrella and all those were under, he said that's a safer way to do it instead of directly into the stock.
Correct. Yeah. But you had other assets to diversify with. And I'm saying as a beginner, like starting from scratch, yeah, I would say diversify into some other things that are less risky and then build that in over time. But it sounds like your husband already had a portfolio and some other assets, so he could do that and afford to. Both of you. Sorry. Yes, you have both. I'm sorry. You're correct. You're right. I got you.
Great presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Can you touch a little bit? I know you in the presentation you touched on dollar cost averaging, but the importance for someone that is just starting out or wanting to get into investing, the importance of dollar cost averaging, setting aside that specific amount each month or whatever it is. Not so much looking at the price. They may look at it. I know you in the illustration you use Apple and Home Depot. Some woman say, I don't have $124 to buy Apple or whatever that price, $164 right now it is. But how they can accomplish buying that by just setting aside a target amount each month or each week whenever they get paid.
Yep. That's actually a very important point. Dollar cost averaging means that you're putting away a systematic amount on a monthly or there's a certain frequency that you set, bi-weekly, monthly, what have you. That's actually very important. And for those of you who have 401ks and you got the employer contributions that come from payroll, that's dollar cost averaging, right? You set it up automatically. You really want to do the same thing for things like your brokerage accounts, or if you have IRAs, set that up so there's a draft that comes from your bank account every single month that you don't even have to think about, because that's going to ensure that you continue to have cash deployed to your investments. So the dollar cost averaging piece of it means that when you have a down market, I showed you that chart with the S&P 500, and in 2008 it had gone down like 57%, you'd be buying shares during that downturn, but you would only be buying a small amount of shares, but you'd also be buying those shares cheaper. So when we talked about the buy low, sell high, well, the stock market overall, the S&P was going down, so you were actually buying those shares at a discount. And every month that you make those contributions to your 401k, those investments, that S&P 500 component is still being purchased cheaper and cheaper. And then when it rises back up, then next year we saw the 401% return, guess what? Your return would have been stellar because you were buying at the bottom over time. Now you didn't time the market, but the fact that you dollar cost average over time means that you participated in the purchasing at the bottom so that you could enjoy that ride up. So that's what dollar cost averaging does for you. It allows you to buy shares cheaper when they're on sale, buy less shares when they get higher, and kind of has a built-in, you actually buy more shares on average over the period of the up and the down, you're buying more shares at a much more favorable price.
Yeah, how much time do we have? But I've been coming to these for a few years now, and it's like we all start in a hole, and the presentations seem like what you can do once you get out the hole. So what I've come up with over the years is, do y'all care what people think about you? Because if you team Starbucks and team iPhone, and you're buying the smartwatch that can tell your heartbeat, but you're not working out, there goes the health. And so, bottom line, my question is, can we get something like, create your starting point. You got to determine where you are now, how to get out that hole, and then build upon that. So that's what I've been lacking every time I come to one of these. So, but it's good information, but it's like it's on a PhD level. And we just got out of high school, so what's that bridge? And we talk about knowledge, y'all throwing around all these financial terms that, I don't understand. And what's a good book of knowledge to begin to understand that stuff so we know where we're going.
Okay.
That's
well,
it.
Okay, so, well, there's a book coming out called Building Wealth Intentionally. Okay, so I want to make sure I got it right. You're saying that you feel like some of the terminology and everything was kind of like PhD level, and you're asking like, what are the basics as far as how do I get back to the level? Give me some tools and techniques for that. Am I right?
Right. Yeah. Basically, you know, I was going to say like, where'd you get that 100,000 from to start to play with?
No, that was like a just because it's easy numbers. That was all.
Right.
Yeah. But so as far as where to start, if you got some things you need to pay off and some improving your credit score or things like that. You know what we're talking about?
Yeah, for the audience.
Yeah, for the audience.
But that's the first thing I had to get over was like, because you know, I'm Team Android. Matter of fact, for 11 years I had track phone and cricket.
Mm-hmm.
You know, paying $50 a month.
Yeah.
You know, the kids got iPhones and stuff, and you know, $200 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and I can do the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm teaching my son now, get away from that, and you have money to invest.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
the change mindset is the first thing.
right.
You know, like you mentioned about pushing the range and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, I work for General Motors. I get you a discount on the. But yeah, just things of that nature.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate the question. I think today I was just kind of trying to touch on a number of different things to give people some perspective. But everybody's got different situations, but it does start, like I mentioned earlier, the mind, as far as how you feel, the materialism, like you said, the cricket phone versus one of these high-end phones, or the need to buy every new phone that comes out, or the latest J's, and so that's mindset, right? But then when it comes to, if you created a lot of debt, credit card debt and things like that because of an old way of thinking, you can come out of that, and I try to encourage people that it's possible that you can come out of that, first starting with the mental, and then saying, okay, let's take inventory of everything that we have. What is the debt? What's the percentage rate that I'm being charged on this debt? And then how do we create a game plan to attack it? Like you said, you got to free up some capital. So the cash flow management piece of it, the budget, getting back to the basics. You got to have a budget, and you got to say, let's figure out what we can really cut. Because cable bills today are like, what, $150, $200 a month? Somebody said $250? So that's $2,400, $3,000 a year. Can you cut the cord and maybe get yourself something that's a streaming service that might be $50 a month or so? So the thing is, but a lot of times people don't want to make the hard decisions to cut those expenses, because no matter what it is you're trying to accomplish, you got to have capital. You got to free some monies up somehow, either getting a part-time job or doing the moonlighting with some contract work. Something's got to give in order for you to be able to address whatever the concerns are, things that need to be addressed to get you to the next level. So, yes.
Our jobs, what our kids' names would be, but we never talked about finances. He didn't know what my financial strategies were. I didn't know what his were. We never had the conversation. And unfortunately, we found ourselves in over $100,000 worth of debt. That was 10 years ago. And each year we come to these conferences and we learn a little bit of a different nugget and a different approach. So our original approach was just getting honest and real with one another, finding out what our financial relationship, what our relationship to money was, and then getting honest about what our debts were. You know, he had a lot of student loan debts. I didn't. My parents had prepared for me to go to college and had money saved up. His parents didn't. But what I did was, you know, I liked the purses and the bags and the vacations, and so I was putting things on our credit card and didn't realize that our interest was like over 20%. So we had to kind of get real with it. And once we got real with it, we were able to identify what was the first thing we wanted to do. And the first thing we wanted to do was get out of the credit card debt. And we did. The second thing we wanted to do was raise our credit score. I don't know if Mr. Cheeks is in here, but he was very instrumental in helping us identify what affects your credit. And, you know, the inquiries that, you know, because I had to keep up, so I was getting cards. So every time they did an inquiry on my credit, it lowered my, my credit score. I didn't know that. That was the second thing, the credit score. The third thing was an emergency plan. My husband is in IT. His industry got hit really bad with COVID-19 and the pandemic. His entire division was laid off. So he went from work making 6 figures a year to getting $300 in unemployment. So we were like, okay, we now got to get serious with the emergency fund. So we took little steps. Now, I came to this today because when we were talking about generational wealth, I have not really been a good steward when it comes to my 401k. I turned 50 in December, and I'm looking at my lifespan of continuing to work, and I'm very disappointed in myself because I have not been a good steward with my 401k. So I am coming here to get knowledge on, one, how can I maximize my employer match? And even though I am 50, I still want to be aggressive. You know, I have a plan with Fidelity, but you go in and you put your age in and the number of years that you want to retire and all this other stuff, and they came back to me with like a plan that's just very, very conservative. And I'm like, no, I want to be a little bit more aggressive. So that was why I came to this session, but it was all baby steps leading up to it and just recognizing that, you know, you got to come up with a strategy. I didn't realize we were being intentional. Thank you for the word. I'm going to tell my husband, yeah, we've been doing it right. We've been intentional about it, but now we want to make sure that we are maximizing our retirement so that we can leave the legacy for our kids.
Thank you.
That is a fantastic way to close out. I'm sure there's a ton more questions out here. The good news is we have our overtime starting at noon. If you want to ask some questions specifically for Andre down in Fellowship Hall, you can do that at that point. But we're going to keep moving because the next thing we're going to cover is some success stories, which Robin just shared some of her success story, while there are still always challenges that go along with that. So Lily, please take the mic.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I guess we're still in morning. Good morning. Good morning. But success is different for everybody. Douglas, depending on where you are, small successes are just as important as those big successes. But the most important thing is, like Mr. Williams said, is your mindset. We have to change the way we're thinking, and my word today was intentional also. Be intentional about setting up a budget and getting out of debt. But because if you don't have those things done, the things that Mr. Williams talked about, the investment piece, the life insurance piece, those are the first things that we let go because we have so much debt that's over our heads. So we just got to be intentional about what it is that we're doing. So we have some success stories. Don't compare your situation to the people that you're going to see with these success stories that you hear from, but keep an open mind, and you may be able to see yourself or may be able to relate to them, and then we'll talk about that after we watch them.
Greetings, I am Katrina. In 2021, I paid off all of the credit card debt that I had. As a result, I was afforded an opportunity to be pre-approved for a home loan. I am grateful for Turner Chapel, the financial classes. I took them, I listened, I took copious notes. In 2022, I used my credit cards again and ran up a few of the credit cards. The debt really kind of made me feel ashamed that look at what I've done. Why is this a debt again? And so I kind of focused and just kept grinding. I'm happy to tell you, I kept praying and really trying to understand how to fix the debts that I'd incurred. In 2022, this month, February, I got an award, unbeknownst to me, that came with a cash prize of $5,000. That is enough money to take care of the credit card debt that I incurred in January of 2022. I am happy that I am now in the timely reminder that what I need to do is to be sure to keep grinding, to stay on my journey, to build financial wealth and health, to live out this promise, to become a godly woman, a good woman who leaves an inheritance for her children's children, not debts. May God's word be fulfilled in my life as declared in his word.
Hi, my name is Elena Curry, and I paid off over $101,000 of debt in just 5 years. In 2016, I was honestly drowning in debt and had no control over my finances. I had graduated from college and was in my first real big girl job, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was trying to handle my money, but I was also making room to go and rack up debt for clothes and going out to dinners and going on trips and all these things, while also ignoring my student loans altogether by defaulting them, forbearance, all of these different things. And in 2016, I really felt convicted from the Lord that I was not managing what his blessings he was giving me well. I was not representing him in the way that he was asking me to. And I felt really convicted, and I talked to my friend about it when I was so overwhelmed, and she sent me a book called The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. And this was the best gift that anyone could have given to me because it unlocked so much knowledge and possibility that I simply just didn't have. Growing up, money was definitely a taboo topic. All I was taught was to save, but I wasn't taught anything else. And honestly, truly, I didn't really care to learn. It wasn't something that affected me on my day-to-day life. So when I was an adult and I was out on my own, I had no knowledge of how to not only handle my money, but also build wealth for myself and for generations. So in his plan, I started what he calls a debt snowball. And so I started with my lowest amount. And once I paid that off, I would roll that into the next. And then I would roll that into the next. And that really worked for me because it really gained confidence and momentum that I could actually do this. And then on the flip side, I really cut out a lot of expenses. So I decided to sacrifice my apartment and I moved in graciously. They let me move in, my aunt and uncle, and I was able to throw what used to be a rent payment towards my debt. I got second jobs. I started side hustles. I started a photography business. I did everything that I could to throw towards this debt. And there was a lot of bumps along the road. It was not an easy ride. During that time, I got in a car accident, which totaled my car, and I had to get a new car, which got me into more debt. And then I also lost my job in the middle of a pandemic, like a lot of us. And so there was a lot of challenges, but I pushed through because I wanted to hit my goal of paying off all of my debt in 5 years, which would have been by my 30th birthday. And by the grace of God, I did it. And I remember at the very end when I paid made that last payment, I really cried out to God and I said, Lord, you can trust me. You can trust me with more. And for me, I was so locked into the vision that God had given me. It wasn't just about the numbers. It wasn't about paying off debt necessarily, but it was about freedom. It was about freedom to live the life that God had called me to live, to bless the people that God had called me to bless, to start the businesses and really walk out the visions that God had put inside of me, the plans he had for me. But I couldn't do that when I had this weight attached to me. So I am so thankful that the Lord convicted me that day and that he has been by my side walking this out every single day. And now I'm just so excited for what he has in store for me as I continue to build wealth and I build up my savings and really start some of my financial goals that I have now. So I'm so blessed for this opportunity to do that. And I really encourage you that if you are feeling discouraged about paying off debt and doing that, the number one thing is mindset. You have to believe you can do it. And the number two thing is seeking out knowledge. Educate yourself on what it takes to get out of debt and start to build wealth. God bless you all, and thank you for letting me share my story.
Hi, I'm Michael Okonkwo.
And I'm Cynthia Okonkwo.
We lost our home in 2013 after suffering job loss and reduced hours during the 2009 recession and my wife's health challenges.
We have been renting since then, but wanted to own our own home again. The challenge we faced was how to pay off the debt we created after spending our savings.
We decided to attend our church's annual financial empowerment conference. Then in 2020, we attended the sessions hosted by Regions Bank. If only one of us could attend, we shared information from that session with the other.
Based on information shared by Regions Bank and a session led by Mr. Solomon Hicks, we built a 4-step strategy. We got copies of our credit reports. We disputed inaccurate information. We saved through apps like Acorn and Stash Capital. And we drastically reduced unnecessary spending.
During the pandemic, we made a huge dent in our debts.
So today we are happy to report that on January 27th, 2022, we closed on our new home.
Through it all, we learned that small actions can make a big impact.
So, we want to encourage anyone else who feels like the barriers to home ownership are bigger than they can conquer. Make a plan and a budget to track your progress. Leave room to treat yourself occasionally, but always save at least a little. Even when you stumble, don't give up. Put your trust in God and know that your dream is possible. Be blessed.
Do you mind standing? We do. I think Cynthia is here. The last person that was that shared her testimony. Cynthia, will you please stand and let them know that yes, they can do it also. Thank you, Cynthia. But again, when it comes to budgeting a debt, you have to be intentional. Make a decision that this is what you want to do. Change your mindset. And whoever is in the household that's going to be making the decision with you, go to the kitchen table, which is the best place to go, and sit down and talk about these are the things that we're going to do. This is the mindset that we're going to have. We're going to do whatever the game plan is. Just make sure that everybody is on the same page. Lay it all out on the table. And make sure that you go step by step. What is the interest rate that I'm paying? What is the balance on these accounts? What does the amount do? Just take baby steps. You don't have to do everything at one time, because if you try to do everything at one time, nothing is going to get done. So do things incrementally, and also, like I said, in baby steps, so you can see the small successes. That way you'll stay on that plan. We also have some statistics from the 2021 conference series. We have 11 programs for the year, and there was a kickoff event which was the kickoff event. Then there were individual webinars or series of webinars that covered 10 topics. The attendance in 2021, we had a total of 234 attendees, and our post-kickoff webinars were 200 and plus attendees. The webinars with the highest participation rates were the home ownership series that was led by Regions, and I think our representatives were in here, but they may be gone downstairs. We had 43 people to participate in that. Estate planning, we had 42. Retirement planning, 36. And then, of course, investing, 30. So when we have those webinars in the different series, just make sure you come out and support us. You'll learn a lot. There are things in there that we'll be discussing to take you from the things so that you can understand. You don't have to worry about being on the PhD level, because if you were ever in any of my budgeting and debt classes, we talked about the snowball effect, basically getting started, because that's where it starts. You got to know where your money is going so that you can be able to invest it in those in your future. But that's all. All right, thank you.
Good almost afternoon, everyone. I'll make this quick, but it's important that, and thank you for staying. We hope that you go to overtime and see our sponsors, because it's important that we recognize our sponsors, because they really are not just involved with helping us financially put this on, but they are totally committed in post this event, helping you get where you need to be. So we are very much intentional in who we select as our sponsors. So if you're on our list, yeah, you've been vetted very closely. But let me share real quickly our sponsors. Kevin, I don't know if you have them on there. Not yet. Let me just call out these names of our sponsors. So we have Peak Level Advisors. We want to thank you for your knowledge. They are professional financial planning service, and they are focused on helping their clients and partners maximize their financial potential. Family Health Cares of Centers of Georgia. And remember, all of these are either in your bag or at the table. They actually provide healthcare services. I know that many of us go to urgent care centers and we have our primary care, but with Family Health Care of Georgia, it's a community health care, but they have the same physicians that you would be going to, and it is showing that most people who use it regularly save anywhere from 22 to 33% on their health care expense. So Family Health Care of Georgia. We want to thank Certain Clothier. They are an apparel printing for all of your corporate and social needs. And Turner's preferred car rental is Avis. Avis has always been there for us, and so we want to thank Avis for continuing to support us. In your booklet, you will also see there is a discount code, so when you're traveling, put in your Avis code. Turner has set you up for success. Juvo Jobs, please go by and see that table. I want you to know it's an amazing app. You can download it on your smartphone. I have an Android, so we go to Google Play and get Juvo Jobs. If you know, or if you are an hourly employee and you're looking for extra work, it is amazing. It's an app that you would just put in where your zip code, your home location, and it populates, like all the food restaurants and everything. It populates jobs that are readily available for you. The goal is really to help you stay in your community and reduce your commute time and that expense. So the hourly payment that you're getting, it stays more in your pocket instead of in your car and travel expenses. So check out Juvo Jobs. And they also, if you had breakfast and you can enjoy some snacks, they were our breakfast and snack sponsor. So thank you, Juvo Jobs. Yes, thank you. And finally, we absolutely appreciate our title sponsor, Regions Bank. I think you guys just heard from one of our testimonies how amazing they have been. They support us from the credit, home buying, business. One thing that I will say about Regions Bank, they are true to the heart about dedicating their time, their education, and support within the communities. There's a lot of things that you will see taking place, and I'm sure you'll find a Regions name stamped on that. So to all of our sponsors, we thank you, and please, overtime, go check them out. Check me out.
Good afternoon, everyone. We hope that you have been enjoying today's Financial Empowerment Conference, and we'll stay to meet and greet with several of our sponsors. Right now, I'm so excited because we have a moment to sit and meet personally with our title sponsor regions. And we have Ms. Tiffany Kurt, who is the Community Development Manager for Georgia and the South Carolina region, to share a little bit about regions. Hi, Tiffany. How are you today?
Hi, Tawana. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So we just want to jump right in, and we want to know, why is it that Regions is so involved with this financial education platform?
Yep, great question. We just feel that it makes sense. You know, we are a bank, we're a financial institution, and we feel that's the space we need to be in. We provide accounts, we provide lines of credit, loans, credit cards. So we feel that it's important for us to inform our customers and inform our communities about how to be savvy in using those products and in qualifying for those products. You know, what are the appropriate steps to take to get there? So we just feel that that's a perfect space for us to be in. And so we do take pride in our financial education offerings.
Okay, that makes sense. And with that, I know that you guys do a lot of different series and you got a great financial toolbox. What are some of those resources that we should know are available for, consumers out there?
So we have a series of seminars called our Next Step seminars, and those are free. They're available to the community for, groups that are interested in having a representative from Regions teaching. That is something that's available to the community at large. And the types of topics that we really feel are most important, especially right now, are the topics around credit, types of credit, or wise use of credit. Home ownership, that's a really big one right now. We know that that's one of the keys to, building that generational wealth. And so we think that those are some of the top tools in our toolbox of Next Step seminars, but we also have online podcasts and other videos that people can view and kind of learn at their own pace.
Okay, very good. And I know that we're going to have some information how they'll be able to apply and be part of those classes. So Tiffany, we're about to wrap this up, but I must ask you, what is the takeaway that you would like your participants, not just for today's event, but any of the series that you guys host, that you would want them to take away and maybe utilize in their life?
Sure. In general, anytime I go out and teach and our teams get out there to teach, the number one thing that we hope for is an increase in knowledge. We hope that you all learn something, and not only learn something, take notes, jot down those resources that we, present to you as options for you that are out there in the community. And then also we hope that you increase your level of confidence and that you're able to then turn those pieces and those nuggets, I guess, of knowledge into action steps and start to really work towards some of those goals of checking your credit report, of calling some of these agencies that are out there in the community, and also of having a conversation with your banker or your financial institution, just to make sure that you're staying on track and that you're taking advantage of everything that's appropriate for you at this stage of your life.
Well, definitely. Well, I'm sure that all of our viewers will do that. And I appreciate you allowing me to take advantage of a little bit of your time to get this information. It's been great. And we thank Regions for being our title sponsor. And you guys have been wonderful to work with. And we look forward to continuing the relationship. Thanks, Tiffany.
Thank you. Thank you. And likewise, we're glad that we can support.
All right. Bye, everyone. Continue to enjoy the remainder of today's event.